That's pretty much it, actually. Thank you very much. No, most of the people, when they see this video, they react with, wow, I wish I could travel like that. And the thing is, most of us actually can. Before I started traveling, as Andrew said, I was a stockbroker working 9 to 5. I had a lot of money. And then the crash came, 2008. I lost my job, I lost the money, and I lost the meaning. At that time, I discovered one website called Couchsurfing. I don't know how many of you guys heard about Couchsurfing? Okay, how many of you haven't heard about Couchsurfing? Okay, for you guys, it's an internet website that allows you to host travelers in your own home, and at the same time, it allows you to stay in other people's homes while you're traveling yourself. When I was hosting people in my apartment, over 150 of them, by listening to their stories and seeing a spark in their eyes, my thought was, wow, I wish I could travel like that. But I was afraid. The world is a very dangerous place, at least according to the media, our education, our family, church, and so on. I was afraid of leaving my comfort zone and going by myself into the unknown world. And I was also afraid of not having any money. And then the people that I hosted in my apartment told me two amazing things. First of all, you don't have to be brave to travel. You just have to have a little bit of courage to start, to leave. And the other thing they told me is that you don't have to be rich to travel. Actually, all expenses while you're traveling fall into three major categories. First is transportation, to get from point A to point B. The other thing is accommodation, and the last is everything else, food, drinks, and so on. And they told me if you minimize those three expenses to some minimum, it can be actually cheaper to travel than live in your own city. I listened to them, and for the next 5 years, I've been traveling around the world with almost no money. And this is how I did it. First thing, I hitchhiked. Apart from being free, apart from being really fast, it allowed me one amazing thing, to have an adventure between point A and point B. Now, how many of you guys have ever hitchhiked, maybe? Okay, well, quite a lot. Why? What are you doing? Okay, thank you. There are other alternatives to transportation. One of them is walking. You guys know what that is. How many of you guys have walked? So you just take your backpack and hit the road. Another way is cycling. It's not maybe completely free because you have to buy the bicycle and eventually fix it, but it's much more cheaper than the conventional method of transportation. And the last one is actually working in exchange for transportation. I did this when I was sailing across the Indian Ocean from Australia to Africa. And I didn't have to pay for the ride, I just needed to do some work on the boat, like do some night watches, cooking, and stuff like that. When it comes to accommodation, most of the time I use Couchsurfing because I had a lot of experience, I had a lot of these positive references on the website and so on. And what I like about Couchsurfing the most is not only because it's free, it allows you to have a different perspective of the destination. You're not destined to stay in your hotel room or take the tourist tours. You just hang out with your host. He takes you on places that you would probably never visit by yourself. But also there are some other alternatives. One of them is camping. You have your tent, so you can sleep almost everywhere you want. In the big cities, I usually slept in parks, just have my sleeping bag and my mattress. And the last one, when it comes to accommodation, is volunteering. There are a lot of opportunities all around the world that offer you to work in exchange for accommodation, sometimes even food. So you get to sleep in beautiful rooms like this. When it comes to all the other expenses, one of them is food. In rich cities, in rich countries, I usually buy food in supermarkets, which is the cheapest way, and just eat on the street. You can also cook with your host, which can be pretty unique experience, to say the least. These are Germans, actually. Yeah. Sorry. But it was pretty delicious, to say the least, and one of the cheapest. Yeah. Another thing is dumpster diving. maybe over 40 to 50% of the food that is being produced is being thrown away. And a lot of people have a problem with that, so they go to supermarket bins after the closing hours and just take all the food that is not going to be sold day after. And when it comes to drinks, booze, the usual, try to avoid the bars and the restaurant and drink in parks. This is how you can travel really, really cheaply. But one other thing when it comes to traveling is that you can earn money while you're traveling. How to do that? I did it a couple of times. One of them is busking, playing the guitar on the street. I'm not a musician. I know like probably 4 or 5 chords and 4 songs. So it's like repeat all, like people are passing by, so they're like, they don't really know. But the most important thing is to have a story. I always had my small carton board, which I wrote, actually somebody else wrote in a local language, where I'm from, what I'm doing there, what's my story. And I think that's what people donated a little bit of money, some sandwiches, sodas, and so on. You won't earn a lot of money by doing this, but it can get you through the day. One other way is to write. You can write a blog, open up a Facebook page. After a while, you can maybe write a book, and so on.